Today on History's Tech, we are looking at the Bell UH-1 Iroquois, better known as the Huey. This helicopter, developed in the late 1950s, has been known as the workhorse of militaries around the world, and with over 65 years of service, it shows no sign of slowing down. But let's go ahead and look at the history and development of the absolute legend that is the Huey. Now, the story of the Huey begins with the Bell H-13 Sioux. Now, the Sioux was a medevac helicopter deployed during the Korean War, and it really showed the versatility that a helicopter can have in a war setting. So, because of this, the United States Army decided to go ahead and put together a program for a new replacement helicopter for the H-13, one that could carry a much larger load and had a much longer distance. Now, more than 20 companies put in to be the next generation helicopter. However, only 2 helicopters emerged as the frontrunners of the program. Those 2 helicopters being the Bell Model 204 and the Common H-43. Now, each of these had their own unique advantages that really made the Army look into them. The Common was well known for its twin intermeshing rotors, which means it had actually 2 rotors that actually spun towards each other but didn't actually hit each other. And Bell was well known for their previous model with the H-13, but at the time they had already developed a turbine engine to be used in the H-13, so they had a well-tested engine ready to go. So in February of 1955, the Army went ahead and decided to order 3 copies of the Model 204, which they designated the XH-40, for evaluation. Now, it had this new prototype engine, and they really liked it so much that even before they finished testing it, they went ahead and ordered 6 more that had several improvements on the prototype. Now, it didn't take them long to get through the prototype phase before the Army decided they would like the helicopter enough that they would go ahead and place an initial order for 182 helicopters, which was then redesignated the HU-1A and was officially named the Iroquois after the Native American nation. However, because of the way the HU-1 designation is and the way it kind of looks, it eventually became known as the Huey. Now, the Army quickly deployed the very first models, originally the HU-1As, redesignated the UH-1As, with the 101st Airborne out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and then later the 82nd Airborne, and it wouldn't take long for them to see their initial combat in the Vietnam War. Now, the Huey was very quickly pressed into service with the 57th Medical Detachment when they arrived in South Vietnam in March of 1962. And it would go on from there, from being just a medical transport to being general support, air assault, cargo transport, evacuation, search and rescue, electronic warfare, and then later on a ground attack aircraft. And the reason for this change is because of the dense jungles and rugged highlands. It made traditional troop movements nearly impossible. So in comes Howe's Board, a group of military thinkers who proposed a new kind of combat, air mobility. Instead of marching through the jungles, they would basically bring in helicopters that would leapfrog over an area, and now the Huey becomes the main workhorse, the steed as it were, for this type of operation. They stripped down the later D and H models to make them lighter so they could carry 10 troops at one time. And so since these troop variants that can now carry a larger payload of troops are vulnerable because they have less armor, they began strapping rockets and machine guns to the Huey, creating the first dedicated attack helicopter. And as the war progressed, there was a need for newer, larger Hueys. They developed the UH-1H, which was the most produced version at the time. It had a much more powerful engine and a longer fuselage in order to basically handle the weight of everything that was going on with the bird. And as the war progressed, they continuously kept updating the aircraft, trying out different weapon configurations, different engine configurations, trying out methods of even removing the glass that was at the feet of the pilots in order to replace them with metal so they couldn't be shot from below. And so as these different crews got their hands on the Hueys, they modified them with whatever they possibly could. This is why we have events where we're finding out that some crews were throwing 20-millimeter cannons on them. Some crews were trying to get 40-millimeter cannons to just test out of the side of these helicopters. So what we're getting is this really unique modifications that we're only seeing as one-offs for the aircraft. There was even some attempts to create a nuclear-capable payload version where it could drop a nuclear missile or bomb from the helicopter. Now, more than likely, this would be a one-off attack run, but it shows the versatility of the helicopter during the war. Now, the Army was not the only one to get in the action of the Huey. The Marine Corps actually utilized it to replace their earlier ground attack aircraft like the Cessna 01 and their version of the common OH-43D. And they utilized modified UH-1Bs into ground attack helicopters that actually really worked for them. And the success of this aircraft was so good that later the Air Force and the Navy also began equipping them to their individual units. Now, the Army would actually be the first one to retire the Huey, but the Marines, on the other hand, loved it too much, and they decided to go ahead and push for an upgrade that would become the UH-1N, which was a twin-engine version of the Huey. And honestly, this variant still survives in the Marine Corps to this day. However, it is under a new classification, the UH-1 Venom, which I'll get to in a minute. But the Navy and the Air Force still operate a fleet of Hueys to this day. Now, because more than 30 countries have deployed the Huey currently, and that number is actually greater than that have employed it in the past, it has actually taken part in multiple conflicts outside of the United States service. It has fought in wars such as the Salvadorian Civil War. It took place in the Rhodesian Bush Wars. It actually has been part of the 2007 Lebanon conflict, and so on. So even though the helicopter was part of the United States military as a mainstay, it has been a part of massive conflicts around the world. Now, because of the sheer number of countries it has served in, the fact that it is such a versatile aircraft, the United States alone has made more than 30 military variants of the aircraft. But that doesn't include other militaries that have each made it their own through usage as military transports, electronic warfare vehicles, even utilized as a tug aircraft designed as a primary artillery mover. Now, one of the biggest variants I'm going to talk about is the UH-1N twin Huey, which completely revolutionized the usage of the Huey. The usage of a twin engine setup allowed it for a heavier load, a much longer range, and more capabilities than they originally thought for the Huey. While not produced in as many variants as the initial Huey, the twin Huey has shown its worth and is utilized in multiple militaries around the world, and even received its own major upgrade known as the Bell UH-1Y, the Venom. The Venom was a major upgrade to the twin Huey, replacing the traditional two-blade with a four-blade setup and allowing for a massively updated package that went along with a companion helicopter. But arguably one of the most interesting variants or developments that came from the Huey is this, the Bell UH-1 Cobra. Now, because of the success of the ground attack version of the Huey, it was decided that a full-on attack helicopter was necessary. So they basically took the engine, transmission, rotor systems out of the Huey and then designed it to fit into an attack helicopter, which would help go on to revolutionize helicopter warfare. Now, because of the sheer number of operators, both civilian and military, that utilize the Huey, they can be found all over the world currently in service, from everything from military operations to search and rescue to scientific endeavors. So because of this, the likelihood of you seeing a Huey is extremely high. And I don't know about y'all, but it makes me extremely happy to see one, because the Huey is my absolute favorite helicopter in the entire world and will always hold a special place in my heart till the day that they retire the very last one, which I assume will be a very long time from now. Now, if you would like to see a Huey, the odds are you can find them all over the world. They are on display in more than 12 countries at museums around the world, utilized as gate guardians. They are typically associated with chapters of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, American Legion, and even Vietnam Veterans of America, and various military historical groups around the country have them in service where you can take a tour of them and get to do a fly around with them. So go out there and find you a Huey and take a ride. But there you have it, a look at the Bell UH-1 Iroquois, also known as the Huey, a helicopter that has a long, well-earned history that continues to serve around this world and doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. And I look forward to its continued service. So I just wanted to thank y'all for joining me on my 200th historical video, and I look forward to talking to you on the next time.